Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
It's going to be a busy week, my man. I hope you're ready for it.
It is going to be a busy week.
I'm gonna
What's that?
I'm gonna need you. I'm gonna need you. Like, it's all hands on deck, buddy. So.
All hands on deck. No calling in sick.
Yeah. No, I'll call the wife. Whatever I got to do, I'll track you down, buddy. So how was the game last night, Mike? I saw you went to the Brewers and Dodgers game.
The Brewers Dodgers game. It was not good if you were a Brewers fan. Dodgers, man, the first complete game in the playoffs by a pitcher since 2017.
That's pretty strong. Yeah, usually it's relying on the bullpen, but their bats came alive too, man. I mean, it was just a great overall game.
Yeah, they got some key hits. Hit a couple, long balls. Brewers, their Dodgers starters, 17 innings, 2 runs.
Yeah.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah. That sounds like a winning recipe for sure.
Yeah, that is. You get starters going 8-9 innings. That's as good as you can get. So,
I like that you're bringing in numbers, Mike, because we're gonna bring up some numbers here as it pertains to.
No, we're like going like full on analytics today. People are gonna think there's like the show is headed in a new direction, which is temporary. So.
No, yeah. Listen, preparing for this show was real stressful because you know me, I don't like doing any work. You know what I mean? So like I feel like I was back in high school. I was cramming the last hour basically. So, Mike, MV brings up a good question. Were you invited to the press conference? I didn't get an invite. I don't think I did anyway. I mean, I'm not surprised I didn't get an invite, but I'm not going to feel a little salty unless you didn't get an invite. But if you didn't, then I feel okay about it. So.
No, I didn't get an invite. Yeah.
It's a little like those things are a little interesting sometimes because you don't want to ask the obvious. We're not allowed to ask the obvious questions.
Yeah, they're not really press conferences as much as they are introductions, and that's fine too. But they don't get overly heavy hitting, so it's not a great loss.
I'll never forget one of the first press conferences I went to remotely, and I was here, and I'll tell you guys a funny story before I bring on Richard. So they'll give us a little prep, right? And we submit our questions, blah blah blah, and I don't know what Mike said. I can't remember, but he pissed them off like no other. And Mike just dipped out. And here I was, I was feeling so proud too. I'm like, I got to be in a press conference with Mike Panozzo. And Mike just goes on fucking tilt and just dips out, before he even got on there to ask a question.
That was the Moscone Cup that Earl was supposed to be in. And they pulled him off the plane, and because he hadn't been vaccinated and some plane tested positive, he had to quarantine, so he couldn't play. And they ended up putting Jeremy in there. So the press conference came on, and I asked about Earl, who they had spent 6 months promoting the hell out of. And Emily hit me right away with we're not here to talk about it. We're here to talk about what's ahead of us. And I thought, well, then this isn't really a press conference. I mean, I kind of thought this. So I just, you're right. I just dipped out. I'm like, listen, this is not what I signed up for. So I just stepped off.
Yeah. And it was kind of the same thing. It was kind of similar last year because we were there in Manila, and obviously everybody wanted to talk about filler. That's all we all wanted to, hear about. But that was rule number one. You know what I mean? Was no one.
That one I can understand more, but you had spent 6 months building up the Earl Strickland return to the Masin, and all of a sudden you can't play, and you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to get asked about it. I mean, come on. So that was to me okay, that's the writing's on the wall. It's time for me to just get back to work.
Yeah, well, listen. You were pulling your Hall of Fame before you were even in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? That story should have made the introduction for sure, because that was a good move. You know what I mean? In the moment though, I was like, "Who is this guy? He's going. He don't give a shit." But anyhow, usually we come on these shows and we give opinions. We make we say this, we think this is going to happen or that's going to happen. Today I decided let's go a little different, Mike. Let's go try to be a little more professional platform, if you will, and try to.
We're going to need someone professional to help us with that.
Well, that's not us. That is not
Right.
that is not at all. So we're going to bring in some help. Our man across the pond in Richard Walker. Richard, welcome to the show. How are you, my man?
I'm fine, thanks.
Those of you who know, Richard's a world-class pool sweater and world-class photo journalist. And
I don't know about that. But yeah, okay, whatever.
You are 100%. So yeah, and he follows, all these events faithfully, and always puts together statistics and points and money for each event, and gives it, always is nice enough to send Mike and I updates on his analysis of where the standings are and the rankings are. And it's really nice to have something to hold up against the ones you get from Matchroom or the ones you get from WPA, and just kind of see, are there any errors, or are there any, do they look similar, or is there anything else? So it's really kind of Balance Plus your analytics are very detailed, which we really like, Richard. So we appreciate it.
And he's Johnny on the spot too. Like the second the damn last 9 ball goes down, boom. There goes my email from Richard. You know what I mean?
He's got to be sitting there the entire match and tournament on his Excel spreadsheet, just like punching in numbers.
Well, when they have like the Perry Open and the Hanley Open, which is delayed a day, and they have 264 matches in one day. I mean, no one can possibly follow that number of matches unless you've got a spreadsheet. So that's you need. You need a spreadsheet.
They should give these, man. So, Mike, where do you want to start at, Mike?
Well, just let's look at what Richard put together based on the Reyes Cup, and what the talking points from that. I mean, Richard broke down all the players for each team and their the tournaments they played in the past year, the number of times the number of racks they won, number of racks they lost, match they won, and this is all the stuff that helps us kind of like analyze, okay, who's holding the strong cards these days, and then we'll get into a little further analysis. Yeah.
I'd say this. Let's start with Team Asia, and then we'll go player by player, and then we'll end on the team row, because I was being a little lazy. I decided to go and keep it by the team here, and some interesting stats that Richard brought up for sure, and mainly to me the ones that I was more interested in was the wins and losses as far as like over the year, and I'm going to bring them up right now for you guys to be able to check out and sweat at home. And Richard, I kind of want to start up top at Beato. Obviously, he was the reigning world champion, 729 racks won, 476 lost. What stands out to you whenever you're looking at Carlo Beato heading into the Reyes Cup?
I think the problem with the rankings at the moment is that the World Championships, I mean, great, we got $250,000 to the winner. I mean, what's wrong with that? Nothing. But it does really skew the statistics a bit towards a person who's got so much prize money in one tournament, and does it reflect well on where he actually is? But I've looked at it, and he's still up there. He could really switch him around with Chua and Yap. Maybe he could switch those places around, but I still think he's about there. I'll give him that.
What say you, Mike?
Yeah, no, it's the prize money does skew things. So if you take the prize money, as far as rankings go, so if you take the prize money out of the rankings, you just look at performance. How many tournaments they played in, how many racks they won, how many matches they won, how far they went in the average tournament, who their wins and losses were against, all those things. If you've got all those on a spreadsheet, you can look at them and kind of make other determinations, like, and we'll get to these later. A couple of these guys are ranked very high, but if you look at their current form, not so great. So this is the fun thing about having all these numbers at your fingertips, so you can look at them and draw different conclusions or make different arguments in different directions, right?
Yeah, I mean, 3 guys sitting up top as far as being over a 60% clip for the wins and loss percentage. And, we knew going in, like the eye test was telling us, who were the weaker links on this team, if you can call it that. The rankings that you guys see on the far right were just where they rank in terms of like all 10 players. So no surprise there for me, AJ being there at the bottom. A couple of things that were surprising, though, boys, was just the difference in tournaments that a lot of these guys played. Now, I know last year, guys were really strung out in terms of, financially and traveling and all these things. But there's a big difference when you're looking at a guy like Yap, who's been grinding all year long, 19 tournaments entered, and then you look at Chua and AJ, where they're sitting at almost half below. But then if you look at it, Yap and his winning percentage, just to me, is remarkable because he's playing so many more matches, and to be able to maintain that is an outlier. Me, Mike, what say you?
Yeah, no, it's true. I was just I'm a little bit slow on. I'm a journalist, so.
What about you? What about you, Richard?
Adding numbers isn't my thing, but look at Yap is at 1,900 plus X, compared to someone like Carlo who's 1,200. So how do you weigh that into it? Is that a plus? Does that do you actually give him an edge just because he's played that many more tournaments and still maintained that 61% winning percentage? Is that significant? I don't know. I'm not a statistics guy, so I don't know what kind of things like that make different numbers significantly different. But you can't fault the guy.
I would say Yap and Chua, they're all above 60%. That's like very, very good. I mean, the confidence is like, if you go into it and you've got a 6% average, every rack you go to, you're going to have a 60% chance of winning it. That means those 3 players are the best. You can switch them around. You can put them any order you want. Those 3 are the best players. And you can make an argument for Yap. He's played 19 tournaments. Okay, yeah, and he's still got a percentage of 60 plus. Yeah. I don't know. I don't mind. Either way, if you're going to come up against any of those players, you're not going to win. Probably.
If you look at it, the rankings for me in terms of how they square up compared to all 10, it's like they have the meat and potatoes in numbers 2, 3, and 4, but they also have the 2 weakest links in there statistically, in Huang and AJ being at 9 and 10. So how will that go and weigh into as we head into tomorrow? I think like experience is always going to be more of a premium for me. And this is something that me and Mike talked about, all the time, especially when you talk about these invitational one table tournaments. It's like that experience factor and how you're able to go and process it is going to be so valuable. And for me, Mike, when I look at these things, even though you would see Huang sitting at a number 9 out of 10 players, like we mentioned before, I thought he was pretty strong last year, Mike, and could have been the MVP. So like, that to me doesn't hold as much weight as seeing, I don't want to be, picking at the low hanging fruit here in AJ, but sitting at number 10, where I'm thinking that's a lot more alarming for me.
Yeah. The difference to me between 9 and 10 is dramatic, because we've seen Huang in these situations before, and he did really well last year. And AJ not only has not been a great performer in tournaments this year, but he hasn't been in this arena. He hasn't been in that single table where everybody else everyone's sitting there watching him, including all the other players. So that's a whole different dynamic that you're adding into it. So that Richard helped put together on someone like AJ, and it becomes a little more apparent about how risky a move this is for Team Asia. we'll talk later about what you do about that if you're team agent in terms of protecting him as best you can. But, it's certainly, the numbers bear out what everyone has said, which is, really kind of a, him in place of Cole is a big step down for Team Asia from last year.
He's a liability. Let's just call it what it is. Until he's proven otherwise, Mike. He's
I don't know if he's a liability. Like I said, until he's proven otherwise. So he can go out there and win his first match. But I consider him a liability. I just would not be surprised if he finds this a really tough environment.
Here's where I'll go with it. Is that last year we were there, Mike, and we saw a kid and another rookie out there on that stage last year and won Mickey Krause. But Mickey had won majors going in there, right? He had won at least a major going in there. Yeah. So it's but you also still saw them really try to protect him. You saw a lot of players, whether in singles or in doubles, really go and try to put him underneath his wing. Now, was that a plus or a minus to his game? And furthermore, was that a plus or a minus to the player who was having to kind of like baby him a little bit? I mean, I remember a match that stands out to me last year was I think he was playing with David, where there was just a lot of micromanaging throughout there where I felt like it took away from David's game. So will we see that in some of these guys that you're going to be pairing up with an AJ, or, kind of how mentally draining is it going to be to kind of hold this kid's hand a little bit? That's where I think you'll start seeing maybe some cracks as far as the consistency from some of these guys compared to how they've been all year long.
What I want to point out is that 7 of these players all competed in the PLP. I know this is in March this year. The PLP, if you go to look at the table, of the results that the PLP had, you'll see that AJ Manis is down at 15th place. He won 4 matches out of 15. And he's right down the bottom. So that just shows you when he's coming. I did the heads-to-heads analysis of all the heads, and it all came down to this tournament, the PLP, where they all played one another.
Right.
And
short races.
This is, I mean, these 2 players at the bottom, one's at 15 and the other one's in 9th place. They didn't fare too well, but the
who was ranked up top on that list out of those 7?
Robbie Capito came up in there, followed by Chua, and in the final, guess who won? Moritz.
Yeah.
7-0 against Francisco. So this is an event in March. So just be careful. It's a bit far away, a long time ago, but it gives an indication of where they played each other. It gives an idea of, they were short races, weren't they? I think 5.
Yeah,
well, 5 or 7.
Yeah, it was kind of
similar, Mike. Sure.
Cup-ish in term, but again, I'll point to this and we'll talk about this more. AJ is going to have to play, but I don't see him playing more than 1 singles match. And they will do the best they can to protect him in double.
It'll have to be like a mandatory thing. He'll have to play a singles once, even if it's on the final.
Yeah, no, he'll have to play singles most likely twice. He'll have to be listed twice.
Okay.
Last day, every player's got to play a singles match. But depending on what the score is, you can hide someone at the end of that list, and it never gets to him, right? So, so there's different ways to protect him, and we'll talk about the format later, but it seems like there's a lot of potential in this year's format to hide him if you need to.
Well, you're going to have to protect him to some extent, and we're going to go over the day lineups here in a little bit. You're going to have to, like I said, protect him to some extent. But what's interesting to me is that, even though you're in that single table type environment in PLP, listen. The conditions are never going to be replicated like you're going to get out there in a Mosconi or in this case a Reyes type arena, So, but and then on top of that, if he didn't do so well out there when there wasn't any expectations, right? There wasn't any country pride, or in this case like Team Reyes pride, and then on top of that, nobody really in the building. Like, you're just adding on layers to continue to mount on top of this kid's back, and you're going to see whether or not he buckles or whether or not, you know, he stands a little bit tall. But those numbers are interesting, especially because you have such a really deep player field, Richard, you know, in terms of the PLP from earlier this year. So we'll see what happens. He is going to be up in day one, so we'll jump into that here in a little bit as well. Mike, any other thoughts on?
Excuse me, if this is the real Johan Chua in the chat, I'd be interested to see, you know, what he thinks about, you know, what they've talked about in terms of taking, you know, keeping AJ confident and loose. You know, I'm sure that
he doesn't seem like he doesn't lack any confidence, Mike. That's for sure. You know,
no, he doesn't. But he didn't lack any confidence. He didn't lack any confidence going into PLP too. But if you watch some of those later matches, he looked like he was just hoping to win one. You know, so you know, your performance can take the edge off of that, you know, confidence really quickly. So if that's you, Johan, tell me what you got.
You know what was and I don't want to, like, well, I guess I take it back, because this is what we have in these events, right? It's kind of like you're overanalyzing every single ball, every single rack, every single move, body language, etc. But so I was on Facebook earlier this morning, and post press conference, they showed some of these guys out there hitting balls and playing exhibition matches, right? And you see Yap playing 9-ball. You saw Carlo can do whatever he wants. I think Carlo was playing like rotation or something, probably 15-ball. But AJ's playing 10-ball. And in my head, I'm thinking, why the fuck is this kid playing 10-ball right now? Like, you know, if you're gonna go and spar, like I'd pull the kid by the ear and I'd say, go play a set of 9-ball. You know, getting stroke when it comes to that break. Again, you're never gonna replicate the conditions. But why the hell is he playing 10-ball the night before the Reyes Cup, Mike? I mean, that was part where I was like, I mean, it's two and two wasn't necessarily adding up for me there, you know. So, look, obviously, you go into it with the kid having the most upside. Chua says everything is under control, sir. he's showing you some respect, Mike.
I think he was calling you Sir Mike. I'm just, you know, I don't expect him to give away any secrets or anything, but I'm sure that they've talked about, you know, who's gonna, you know, you don't want too many people talking at him at the same time, right? So you've got to have some kind of, you know, something in place. I personally, I expect Boosty to spend a lot of time with AJ. You know, Boosty's the one who picked him. Boosty's the one who's high on him. And I would expect Boosty, you know, he has that calming effect. He's always so chill. I expect Boosty to kind of be the one with his arm on AJ's shoulder the whole week. But
and I'm going to say this with all due respect here, but like, what experience has he had as of late playing in an arena like that, or coaching in an arena like that, or managing a player in an arena like that? You know,
who Boost?
Yeah, Boost the money. Yeah, you know,
not much. But he's one of the great players ever, and the Filipinos all love him and trust him and whatever he says. And you know what he's like. You know, he's as easygoing, but you know, focused on the game as you can get. So I don't have any qualms about, you know, this being first time captaincy for Boosty, you know, have any impact on whether he can influence the team in a positive way.
I hope so, and more importantly, not just because I bet on Team Asia, right? Because I got a little sweater up there, you know what I mean? But the other side of it is because, you know, how much mentally taxing it can be to have to go and constantly be paying attention, and we've seen that as well with American players, Mike. I've talked to guys who are in locker rooms with Earl, and I mean like mainstays of Team USA, you know, where they talk about how draining it is to be able to have to like mentally keep him from going full blown tilt.
Well, that's,
you know
that's why I think it's important for Boosty to take that on, so that it takes the pressure off of one of the other players from having to play and babysit, right? So that's where I would go with that.
And not for nothing, but like, you know, you're hoping for upside, but there aren't necessarily like a ton of expectations when it comes to this kid. You know what I mean? So like if Boosty takes on that role, then other guys can kind of just focus on their own game, right? And then just see where the cards kind of go from there. I want to bring up Team Rest of the World, boys, and look at some of their win-loss percentage from the year. Obviously, Federer is going to be the alpha. He's the number one. 758 racks won, 464 racks lost, entered 13 tournaments this year, shooting at a 62% clip, which is ranked number one amongst all 10 players. What stands out to you, Richard, as you look through Team Rest of the World, and more importantly, like in terms of current form with some of these guys?
Well, 62%. That's outstanding. That's really super good. But there's a big but.
Oh,
how's he done recently? This is the problem. I mean, recent form. He went out against the Greek player George
Antonakis
10-6 in the 64, the Hanoi Open. He got to the final 32 of the Perry Open.
Right.
And he went out 2-0 in the 10 ball. I mean, that's not good confidence. That's like he lost to coming into this event here, and he lost to the 64 against I don't really know this guy George from Greece. Then you come into I'm going to play the Reyes Cup. I'm number one in the world. Yeah, I just beat you.
Yeah.
So I'm not so. China Open. I know it's not a WNT event, but he did okay in that one. He got to the semi-finals. So and then but it's just these last three events: the World 10 Ball, Perry Open, Hanoi Open. Didn't do great. Didn't do fantastic. You expect him to get much further than that. And playing a Greek guy, he might be a really good player. He might be up and coming player. I don't know him, but that's not good confidence.
Mike, Federer better than most. Mike, what's your take on that?
Well, I don't think Federer goes to any tournament thinking that he's can't make a ball. So I mean, his form has not been great lately. He's lost. I don't know. I haven't. Some of them were early enough where in an event where I never really saw what happened or how he played, whether he played poorly, whether his opponent just played perfectly, whatever the case is. But I'm sure it's in his head a little bit that he hasn't gotten a lot of table time in at the last 2 or 3 tournaments. This is a different animal. I think he'll look at it. I think what he'll focus more on, to be honest with you, is playing Mosconi Cup type matches, right? And he has not done well in the Mosconi Cup in the last couple of years. So I think that's going to weigh on him more heavily than how he did in the World 10 Ball or how he did in the Perry Open. Even if he had won those, he would feel really confident, but he'd come into this knowing this is, this type of event has not been my friend the 3 times that I've played it.
No, and we're going to go over that here in a little bit as well, talking about some of these guys and how they've been playing just in that environment specifically. So, but to your point, look, I think it's different because listen, when you're playing in Vietnam and you're playing overseas, it's a different animal. But the problem is that you're still overseas right now, and so you're still going to have to deal with all those different types of conditions where it's not going to be ideal, like relative to how he's used to training, right? But the one thing that I will say, and listen, numbers are always going to back it up in terms of Federer, but it's like he's got the it factor, he's got the intimidation factor that I think will, no matter what, is always going to be inside guys' heads because they know who he is, they know his resume, they know his caliber, and they know the potential level of execution. Listen, he's the world number one for a reason. And even though he hasn't had success on these type of Mosconi Cup type environments, it's like you would still always pick him, each and every day, every match, and you'd bet your life on it if you had one guy to pick. So,
well, I agree with you to an extent. The part where I disagree to a certain extent as well is, he goes in an event, people know what he can play on, people know what he's capable of doing, all that. well, he's playing against guys like FSR and Shaw, who have played in this Mosconi, played in this format against them the last couple of years, and I don't think they're going in too intimidated. So,
well, no, but I mean, like in terms of right now, just for the Reyes, Mike, it's like they can kind of like Federer doesn't have to be number one. Even if you look at the press conference, Jason was doing more of the barking in there, so it's like he can take on that role of having to play the lead man. Where Federer can kind of just be himself, be an introvert, go out there, let his game do the talking type of deal. And I mean, look, he got back-to-back U.S. Opens, and I know World 10 Ball, and I know Perry, I know all these things, but back-to-back U.S. Opens, back-to-back World Championships. If you talk about how you can handle pressure and who you want to have in your foxhole, you're not going to get too far down the list before you're picking that kid from Russia and Federer. Down below, we got Moritz. I think the numbers just don't lie. This kid has stole the show the last 3 weeks. He's 901 racks won, 599 racks lost. The tournament's 14, so you can tell he's been grinding. 60%. He's ranking number 6 amongst 10 guys. What's your take on Moritz, Richard? Outside of the obvious, kid's playing fucking great.
He is the player in form. And I'm glad that I've just seen he's playing the singles and in the first singles. So that is the best choice. I predicted that would be the choice as well. I think that's the right choice, and he should win it. I'm pretty confident that he is in such a good form that
I hope you're wrong. That was the only match I had Asia winning was that singles. But we'll go into that. We'll go into that whenever we chop.
He's in form. He hasn't. Yeah. He's only lost one match, and that was in the final. He hasn't lost. Win all the way through. So that's why. I mean, he hasn't.
What say you, Mike? Because we know the checks this kid's been collecting over the last 3-4 weeks, Mike. But how is that going to translate out there when you bring in proper form, great momentum into that type of environment?
Well, for Moritz, I really expect him to, just be Moritz. I don't expect, he's not a guy who gets shaky much. He's not a guy, he's not overly confident, but he's very confident. He's a smart player. He plays the game the right way. He's going to know in this situation, he'll have Jason and Fran work with him, particularly Jason. He'll know in this type of environment, try to do more with the cue ball. You need to do, make the ball, play safe more often. He'll understand that stuff, and he's very good at executing a really solid game, I think. I don't think that he's going to be overwhelmed by the moment at all, to be honest with you. Now, does that mean he's going to win? Who the hell knows? But I don't see him. I don't see him being shaky in this. I don't see him making decisions in this. So I think I think he's going to do great myself.
I think it's a great mix of even guys who have to take him under his wing know what it takes to take a guy under your wing, in a Jason, right? Or in a double J.
He's going to require a lot less hand holding this week than AJ is.
I thoroughly agree with you, Mike. But I hope that they actually let the kid play because, if he has that type of I don't want to say attitude, but like that type of energy, then let him be. You know what I mean? Don't try to hold his hand because, and I'm in agreement with you there. But if you have to, I would say it's great the fact that you have a pillar like a Double J being in there who's been in that environment, knows how to teach, and Jason for that matter. More importantly,
that's a good point because I remember noticing last year that at the beginning Mickey seemed a little out of sorts because I think he was either being overcoached, or felt like he needed to do what everybody else wanted, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I think that affected his play early on. And so that's about the only thing that I think could affect Moritz is if he feels confused by getting people talking to him from different angles at different times, or feeling pressure to do what this guy wants or that guy wants and just not going out there and playing his game. If they just leave him alone, let him go out there and play his game, I don't think that he's got a problem.
Look, I know he's ranked number 6 in terms of the 10 guys from a win-loss percentage for racks. But if you talk about current form and momentum, that kid's ranked number 1. He's dominated the last 2 major tournaments with some monsters in his own right. He's gotten a lot of experience playing out there in front of crowds. Has he in Vietnam as well? Single table environments under the pool room in the Perry, but then as well as in the Hanoi, under the Matchroom light. So that's going to play towards his favor as well. What do you got, Richard?
In those 2 tournaments, the Perry Open and the Hanoi Open, he didn't have an easy ride. There's no easy player from the final 32. He had David Al-Kaidi, Mario He, the 2 co-brothers. I mean, he beat them. Yeah.
That's the experience that's invaluable to me, Richard, because those are A1 monster type players that you would expect to see on Asia. And if he didn't get rattled in those type of moments, I don't expect him to get rattled out there.
Yeah. He was in the final. He won 13-4 against Chung. I mean, come on. Yeah. How is he not going to be?
Was that really the final score? 13-4?
Yeah, 13-4.
Perry,
That's ridiculous. Jesus.
Yeah.
Moving on, boys. We got.
He just spoiled it with the final of the Hanoi Open, but I'll let him off.
There ain't no shame in losing to PS. PS was rocking and rolling on all cylinders in his own right. Middle of the pack, boys. FSR is ranked number 5 from these 10 guys. Played 16 tournaments this year. 903 racks won, 590 racks lost. Still sitting at a pretty high clip, even considering the amount of tournaments he's played. Mike, what's standing out to you for FSR heading into tomorrow?
Just consistency, and you know what you're going to get out of them. The great thing about FSR to me is he fits into like a team like this with only as your number 3, I say.
He's a
really easy.
Yeah, for sure.
He's perfect, and he's put him in there, and you put him in those positions where that player is going to play, and you're going to get performance out of him, and he's going to win most of his matches, and he's not going to. He can play doubles with anybody and be fine. So he's a really, not that someone who's won 2 played in 3 world championship finals in the same year as a role player. In this type of team format, he's that perfect number 3 guy for every reason, for intelligence at the table, for his ability, for his experience, for his calmness, his demeanor. He's like the perfect guy for that spot, don't you think?
I do, for sure, and I want to get to Richard here as far as his current form here in just a second. But what's interesting to me, Mike, and to your point, is that I feel like you can put him with anyone, and I'm good with it. Can put him. 100%. You can put him with Sky. He's got good energy with that. He'll put him with Jason tomorrow. He's going to have a good rhythm there as well. Federer for sure, because they got a pretty good rapport and are very familiar with one another. So as far as personality wise, you know what you're going to get. The experience of having a few years under his belt, you know what you're going to get. He was there last year in that arena, so that's going to be a value add to him as well. So many intangibles that are just going to play more in his favor. We talked about him not having the year versus the standard that we're used to seeing from Fran, from that run he went on however long ago. But sitting at a 60% clip, there ain't no shame there, especially when you're sitting middle of the pack at number 5 amongst those 10 guys, including all the monsters on Team Asia. Richard, what's his form been like as of late?
Well, lately, I mean, he's final 64 in the Hanoi Open. Let's see, he lost 10-6. And he lost against Kachi in the Perry Open. And guess who he lost against in the winners round 1 of the Perry Open? AJ Manis.
Really? Oh, boy. Okay, I like that one. That's a good little nugget.
By AJ Manis. So don't write off him. Got to remember, guys, this is race to 5. Race to 5 is nothing. I mean, you could just blink your eyes and you're 3-0 down. I mean, so just be careful, don't be lumping on against AJ Manis because you think he's not going to be winning, but look, he's won against Francisco. So US Open he didn't do so well. So he really.
So I'm hearing the last few majors he ain't coming in hitting on.
It's
all
not
cylinders.
really exciting enough. I mean, no. I mean, Battle of the Bull. He was out in 32. And
But see, I think that just further Mike's point.
Where does ranking come from? Where did he win? He must have won something.
Perry last year was his last win, his last major win anyway, and that was a pretty stout field in its own right. But that's where I feel like that number 3 spot is perfect to like what Mike said. You know, that where he doesn't have to be the alpha.
To be your number 1. You're not expecting to be number 1. You're not throwing him in against Yap every match. You're not whatever you're asking him to do what he needs to do. The one disconcerting thing that I agree with Richard in terms of his current form is that he hasn't played well in these recent tournaments, and he needed to. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He was really
winding up in the rankings. You know how much these events mean to him, all that kind of stuff. And wanting to win tournaments, but he was under pressure in the last 3 or 4 tournaments to pile onto his points and to assure his spot and things like that, and do very well at that. So that's that. I wonder a little bit what that says about his form. But again, in this situation, going in here tomorrow, I think they kind of take all those other tournaments, the big fields and the long fields and the longer races, and throw them out the window and just say, okay, I'm Fran. I'm very comfortable in the Mosconi situation. I was comfortable in last year's Reyes situation. This is a different animal, and I'm cool here. And what you'll get out of it.
I just want to point out also in the Perry Open, in the same event, he beat Carlo 9-4. So it could happen.
Plus.
It's I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that means you don't know which side you're going to get, but Fran does play with a lot of pride. I love the guy's break. When he went on that run years ago, I think he had a top, 2 or 3 break, and I think he can still find some kind of consistency there, especially having the experience out there in that arena and the knowledge of being able to adjust. And oh, by the way, you're still going to have a little bit of a security blanket in the brain of one Jason Shaw, who's sitting right below there, guys. Jason's ranked number 8 out of 10 players, played in 11 tournaments, a little bit below 60%, 59.46 as far as the win-loss percentage. What's your take on Jay coming into this event, Mike?
Well, I mean, the expectations are Jay's going to be Jay when he's in these events. And so whatever he did beforehand, whether it's win or lose, you throw it out the window because this is a different animal and this is where he excels. So, again, we've talked about it before. If I was the Filipino crowd when he got onto the table, I would just pick up a newspaper and wouldn't say a word. And don't let him off the crowd. Don't let him off you, because this is what he plays for. And I think it's almost like at this point with it, because he's got the talent, obviously, but he's got the talent to win the big majors too, and he just doesn't. Here he gets in here. I think it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that he goes in here so confident and knowing that this is his arena that he just becomes this different player. And I'm sure he wishes he could channel it through big events too. But when he gets in, he thrives on this. And so all of us would be stunned if he had anything less than a right on the tip of MVP performance in this and in the Mosconi Cup. This is what he lives for.
What do you got, Richard?
This guy had such an unlucky draws every last four tournaments.
I know you're from the fucking UK already, Richard. Whenever you leave,
it's such he drew Copenhagen and then he drew him again, and Max he drew him and then he lost. He drew him again. Oh God, he's just having a really.
He's not an underdog, and he's not an underdog in any of those matches.
Come on, he's the greatest showman ever. I mean, I taking pictures, and you always go for sure because he's going to have the most emotion and the greatest shots. I'm going to catch with Jason Shaw, and that's who you go for. So he is exciting. So he should be on the team every time. But I'm from the UK, so what did I say? But as far as far as his form, he drew, and I think he's just got Copenhagen twice. He did lose against Chua 9-2 in the winners round 1. Yeah, okay.
What was that in Hanoi?
That was in the Perry Open.
Oh, okay.
Nothing inspiring apart from the UK Open, where he feeds off the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, this guy
if the crowd are against him, he'll double down and he'll make sure that that they'll be smirking on the other side of their face. They won't be laughing once they win. Once he wins, they'll be going, "Oh, there's a lot of trouble here."
Look, I love stats. I love stats in terms of how they can go and apply to an argument, right? Or how you can go make a point versus one towards another. But like, to me, Jason is the guy where like the formula just does not apply to this guy. Yeah, you throw it out, because you know what you've gotten out there year in and year out. And we're going to go over the last few years in Jason in this environment more specifically here in a moment. But listen, I don't care about his current form. I don't care about going out here or there or whatever. Jason is built for these type of environments. He thrives off the crowd. He thrives off of these single table type stages, especially playing more of a team's environment. I think he can go and morph into whatever it is that you need him, whether to be that leader in the locker room, take a guy under your wing, be the guy, go out there and play the big match. He can do it all, can Jason. He can also be a role player if you need him to as well, even behind a guy like Federer, who's ranked number 1 out of all these guys. Jason is just, he's a different breed, and there's not many that are like him in the pool scene, and I think that's why he's deserving to be in this spot, especially considering his record. I think he's such a value add in the overall. So, I mean, even though he's below 60%, even though his form going into here is not the best, I'm not going to even, indulge that side of it when it comes to this guy, because nothing seems to apply. And by the way, he was there last year. He didn't like getting embarrassed last year neither. And he did have a little bit of momentum ending that event also, where he did, play a little bit better. Now, I know it's garbage time, but either way, it's like you can pull off of those positives as well. And he plays with pride, especially once he loses like that. So down below, we got Sky, 2-time Mosconi Cup MVP, 10 tournaments played, 517 racks won, 351 racks lost. Ranked number 7 out of these 10 guys, below 60% as well. Mike, what's your take on Sky going into tomorrow?
Well, they're going to have to hope that Sky shows Mosconi Cup form, and I think that he'll be loose because in this group he's not expected to be the alpha either. So he's got he's not going to have that kind of pressure. So I think that I think he'll play well. I think he'll be very comfortable with JJ being his coach in this. And so, and I think that he's got pride in, not wanting to walk away with this like the Europeans carried the load in the rest of the world team, and he and Federer, were just on their coattails. So I think the pride factor will come into that too. How that all comes together with his current form, I don't know. He's made a couple last 64, last 32, but winning those big breakthrough matches. Again, these are all going to be tough matches. They're all going to be race to 5. It's a crapshoot at that point. But so I'm really not sure what we're going to get out of Sky. I know what his mental status will be. And this is my type of arena, and let's have some fun, and let's play up to the crowd, and let's hit some big shots and whatever. But whether or not they all go in, that remains to be seen.
Richard, when I think about current form, this guy's playing pretty good. Got to a couple of final 8s. Where's he at as of late?
Yeah, I mean, it's all right. The thing is with the Sky this year, he's only really entered 10 events. It's pretty low. I mean, he missed an event. He was at a wedding, okay.
His own wedding.
Yeah. Okay.
You get You get a pass on that.
You've got to get to your own wedding, I suppose. 10 events. You know what? I've just looked at that. UK Open, May the 8th. Lost to, guess who? AJ Manis.
Really?
9-5 he lost.
Another checkbox for AJ, Mike. He's a real deal. Efren, baby.
Yeah. And he also lost to Vietnamese guy. And it's pretty, it might be at the bottom of the list, but it's not as bad as it seems. It's just not a lot to go on. He did get to the quarterfinals of the Perry Open, lost to Moritz, but he lost heavily. But he did get through. He beat Pijus. Is that how you say it? Pijus? Pierce, sorry. Pierce. He beat him 9-2. So it's pretty good. It's okay.
We know what Sky's capable of. We know he can beat Pierce 9-2. He can lose to AJ 9-2. That's what that kind of seems to be the MO with Sky, and I think a lot of that has to do with his infrequency in terms of playing. So when you pop into events, at about 50% rate of everybody else, it's going to be tough to maintain the type of consistency that you need to get through 7 or 8 matches in a 256 tournament. So, again, Sky will just have to wait and see, what happens with him. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to handicap how he's going to do this week.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the more alarming thing out of everything, especially for those last 2 guys on that list I just showed, was just the amount of tournaments they entered. Because those are the guys who know they got guaranteed spots on those teams, and how they're fair, how many tournaments are actually entering into versus the guys with something to prove or something to go and earn is very, very different.
It's very
very different, very, very different. But by his standards, you would take whatever you can in terms of like world stage performances, because the fact of the matter is there just hasn't been, those consistent type runs in these big majors. Now I know the hope is, and I know what you think he can do because you've had splashes here and there. Listen, coming in with a couple of final 8s, we'll take it. Holding on to the MVP stuff, we'll take it. The experience out there, he'll take as well. Now a lot of guys, especially on the European side of it, have a lot of respect for him because they know what he's done over the years for Team USA. The problem is he hasn't done that against those guys in Asia yet, and so I don't think they're going to have so much of that factor going into him. I mean, the results are what they are. His earnings for the year are what they are as well. Everybody will say
he was at the wedding when the World Championships was on. That's what he's missing out on, a few $1,000s there.
Yep.
That could be wasn't good planning, but that's where the World Championship really skews things. I mean, if you're just entering, you're going to get $1,000 just before you even speak. So
All right, boys. I went a little bit deeper in terms of stats, and I went.
Look at you!
Mike, you'll be proud of me, Mike. I was doing some work the last couple of days, but I was doing some work.
Numbers. Look, damn, you're going to be doing PowerPoint presentations pretty soon, dude.
Look, listen, I ain't teaching any seminars anytime soon. I can tell you that, buddy. All right. But here's some things. Listen, we talk about Sky being the 2-time Mosconi Cup MVP. We talk about SVB in terms of, having a subpar, mediocre Mosconi Cup record. Over the last 5 years, boys, when I was looking at those guys' stats, and I used 5 years just because it's short, it's recent, it's all these things, right? 8-17 overall, matching both of them. But the eye test would tell you that Sky plays, bigger in terms of these events. But when I look at just the overall clip, I don't know, Mike. I don't know.
Well, we talked about this yesterday. We talked about Sky. There's 2-time MVP and all this kind of stuff. It was 18 and 19 last couple years.
Yeah.
He's come in with that when he's come in. He's made some big shots. He gets the crowd going, things like that. But the results are the results, and they haven't been, anything that makes an opponent quake in their shoes. So, not performances the one thing that he's done better in singles than Shane, which is
for sure
always the key to Mosconi, Reyes, whatever, who wins the singles matches. Those are those head-to-head, 1 point for you, one against the other thing. Those are, you need your 3, 4, 5 guys to win at least one singles match if you want to win the Reyes Cup or Mosconi Cup. So Sky has done better in head-to-head singles matches than Shane has. But again, proof in the pudding is 8 and 17 for both of them. And Federer, even worse.
Here's where I'll take some positives out of Sky's results. And to your point, Mike, the singles is massive for me because one, you're playing against probably 3 guys who have won majors in Team Europe and 2 guys, one of them including Jason, who's an alpha as well and a monster. So it's like if you're getting that kind of result in terms of singles, I'm living with it. And on the double side of things, even though it's a terrible record for 4-11, listen, the fact of the matter is you're probably playing with a not so good player on Team USA getting those results, So I expect him to do well.
He played with Federer last year, and he played with Shane.
Okay, well then fuck that argument. Then that goes out the window. Then if that's the case, because
played with Federer. That's when they blew the match at the end of the match against David and I think it was Kachi.
I thought it was jarring when I look at these numbers in the overall because of how we talk so highly of one and then go and knock the Mosconi results of others, And so that's where I feel like there's an interesting debate, especially when you look at just the pure numbers. When I go right below Sky and Shaw and we talk about him year in and year out, Mike, 20 wins, 7 losses. Look at that number on the singles, Mike. 11 and 1. How gross!
Look at that. 11-1. You don't mess with Shaw.
That's stupid.
No.
That's stupid. But which is going to bring us to a really interesting point later on. We'll get to that when we go over the format.
Look, he is the guy, and he can go and carry, and that's with him having a lot on his shoulders too. Having to play so many different roles.
What match you lost?
I didn't go that deep.
Does this include Reyes Cup for Jason? And,
No. It does not. It does not. It only include. I only went off of Mosconi Cup, so I did not look at Reyes Cup stuff when it comes to him. So this is just for all these guys right here. It was just for the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. Down below, this was something to me that was pretty shocking. And when I think about Federer, obviously we know what he can do. We know his resume. We know finals appearance and world championships and all these things, right? But like whether he's been an afterthought in terms of a role player in Team Europe or whether he's been the number 1 guy on Team USA, you can't argue these numbers, boys. 5 wins and 13 losses, 2 and 5 in singles, 3 and 8 in doubles. It is not looking good for Federer on these single tournament stages, Mike. What stands out to you?
No, he just there's something, because him to play for a long, long time. So, is he going to continue on an SVB pace? Or is he going to, turn things around and straighten them out? I mean, you look at his 2 wins, one of them was against Mickey. It's not like they've thrown him out there against Filler and Jason every time either. So it's, he needs to step up because there's no cupcakes in Team Asia.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, Mike, because that's when I looked at those numbers from Federer's rookie year on, I was just blown away, because we all and he's in the same conversation and discussion in the likes of Filler and Shane and all these legends of the game, Carlo Beato, all these guys, you're going to talk about him in that same breath and probably put him close to the top, if not at the top, but the fact of the matter is in these Mosconi type environments, he just hasn't performed. And at some point, something's got to give. He seems like he's got a lot more confidence compared to other years. I will say that, and clearly that's coming from results. But listen, it can slide. You haven't performed, whether you've been sick or this has gone on or that's gone on or whatever. Listen, you got to go and step up here. This is you got a solid. You're saying you got a solid team alongside you. You got guys who have been proven in that environment. It's time for you to go and get some signature wins under your belt as well.
Yeah,
Richard,
we talked about it before, how he just needs to get used to this arena. He needs to get used to these events. So I think he will, and once he does, he will, be able to flip the switch and be a much, better player here. He came into his first year with Team USA, he came in and Allen, outmanned and a lot of pressure on himself from American fans and certainly from European fans. So I wasn't surprised at all that he that it got the best of him. I was surprised last year that it got the best of him.
Yeah, and I think that's where you just further add to it. Richard, what do you got?
I've got a side question, which is Philip playing in the Philippines Open? Does anyone know?
No.
He's not.
No,
he's not.
Because he's in third position on the Mosconi Cup rankings, and so that's an automatic qualification spot.
Number 3 in your number 3 in your list, number 25 in your heart. If you match.
Further down, Mike. Further down in your heart. Look, here,
right.
When I look at Filler, I mean, listen, we know what this kid is made of year in and year out. And when I look at these stats, this just further validates the argument and what the eye test shows. It's not, and it's not just these alarming numbers. 7-3 in singles, 8-2 in doubles, 15-5 overall. Oh, by the way, boys, this is with one less year compared to everybody else here on this list as well, because he was not in the mix last year. So these are some big wins. And on top of that, I just, in my head, I can remember just big time shots whenever they needed it the most, up against the who's who of Team USA, because he was always up against, Filler and Skyler and all these guys. And I think Skyler's had his number pretty good in singles to that point. But it's like, you can't argue what a proven winner this guy is. And that's why whenever we talk about the loss that he is to this overall event, when you look at these numbers, it just further backs it up for me, because this kid is also of a different breed, like a Jason Shaw, and should be held in that same regard. And last year, I'm a firm believer that had Filler been on that team, it would have been a drastically different result. Now, I know we'll never know, but you got to imagine everybody else plays with more confidence when you have that kid sitting right behind you, and he's got your back and is coming in on the wings as well. So
it's such a shame he's not in on this event, because the two Germans, Moritz and Filler, would make a great doubles team. It would have been odds on for them to win. It's such a shame that he didn't go to Hanoi, but I just hope he gets to the Mosconi Cup. I don't know what the issue is, but he should be on the team.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think like from a number of different standpoints, you can make an argument for this kid being on the team, and given the score line last year, and I'm only talking in regard to this event because Europe's been dominating USA, so it really doesn't matter, right? But like in terms of this event, if this event this year is the same way as it was last year, it's a terrible decision again, to leave this kid off the team, because you're watering down the competitiveness, not to mention like the social stuff and just the fanfare and all these things. You know what I mean? Because he's
they have to be in Hanoi. They have to be in Hanoi to be in the Reyes Cup. That was the kind of unwritten rule. That's
it was pretty much
everyone's saying. Everyone's saying, everyone's saying, well, where's the Code Brothers? Where's such and such? Why isn't this player on it? And you need to be frank. You have to be in Hanoi to be in on this cup. Otherwise, you're not playing.
But it doesn't appear you have to be in the Philippines to play in the West.
Right.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think if you go to the Philippines and you're on Team America, or you're pro in Team America, and you win the Philippines Open, you're in the team for Mosconi Cup. Just imagine that. You can imagine a complete rookie coming along, winning the Philippines Open, and straight into the Mosconi Cup.
I think like no matter what, when it comes to Filler, everybody knows what he is and what he can do. And even conversations that me and Mike had last year with Jason, he talked about the loss that he was to not being on that team, and how concerned he was leaving Reyes going into Mosconi as to whether or not he would be on that team, Mike. And so I think like it drastically changes the landscape of the competitiveness of it. And he just like Jason. He he thrives. He's a big time guy. He can play the crowd. These aren't things, intangibles that you can count on from majority of the roster. But that kid's got it. It's a shame he's not in this event. And it's just, I'm not a fan of that decision at all. Richard, I want to ask you this: what player do you think has the most pressure on their shoulders going into start of the event tomorrow?
I think
or maybe we'll let you stew on it.
AJ Manis, I think he needs to prove something.
Yeah.
I don't
think any of us would say anything other than AJ. I mean, he's a question mark. He's the youngest. He's a Filipino playing in the Philippines. He's got a huge social media following. This heat tomorrow, I'm going to be really, really interested to see how he comes out and plays lights out. Man, that would be like, rocket ship time for this guy.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll make the argument against it, and it's only because, to me, I don't really have much expectations with this kid, and so I know what his upside is, and I know what they're hoping he can be, and I'm hoping that he blossoms into this and that, but he's not there yet, and until you do, then I'm just not a believer just yet. And to me, when it comes to this event, I feel like out of when I think about all 10 guys, the guy with the most pressure to me, Mike, kind of seems like Federer. If he goes out there and shits the bed for another Mosconi Cup style event, what's your hope then going into December? Because he's the guy you count on to be number one, especially if we're not going to get SVB. So like if there's nothing to grasp onto in terms of hope of that American landscape, then it's like, geez, you know what I mean? It can get a little dicey.
Yeah. For Federer, there's a lot of heat on him to do well. For Mosconi, he's obviously, going to be your number one. Here, I don't think that he goes into this event feeling he's got to be number one for Team Rowe, because that if it comes down to an open pick for a singles match, we're playing. It ain't Federer.
It's Jay, yeah. So but that's what I mean, though, Mike. If you're an afterthought and then you're still not performing, you know what I mean? Like if you get lost. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Listen, you can tell by that team picture, he's sitting at the front, just like Carlo is. And rightfully so. And I get it, but it's like still in these team environments, you're still not proven until you prove it. And to this point, he just hasn't. Let's talk about day number one matches, boys, starting off with Team Asia versus Team Rest of the World. Mike, what do you got in that matchup?
Coin flip.
Agreed.
Team Asia, remember last year, Team Asia came out and stormed the league in the team match, and Team Europe came back and ended up winning the match.
Yeah.
Came back to the match. I thought, there's a little shake in Team Asia already.
Yeah.
And then they came back and just, turned on the Jets. So, team match, I mean, look at last year in Mosconi. US won the team match a couple days in a row. So the team match is just it's you each play one rack. Some of these guys don't even get up for their rack, So it's
I was gonna say
it's just a complete roll of the dice. So but both teams really want to win it because it gives someone that running start. It gives someone that running start, and you hope that it puts a little bit of doubt into the other team, whether it's doubt in the mind of someone who had their one rack for the other team and blew it, or someone who, like, if this ends and AJ didn't even get to play his rack, now he's going into the second match. He hasn't hit a ball yet. So
that's where
a lot of these little things.
Well,
there's a lot of these little things that kind of pop into the team match that make the team match interesting. As far as who's favored to win, that's a complete roll of the dice. It's these little nuggets that you look to pull out of it.
It's 100% a flip, and there's no way to like really clock it one way or the other, because to your point, Mike, you may just be sitting there and not even get out of the chair and lose your rack, but I feel like just looking at the lineup, that pressure is going to be on Asia going into it. Obviously AJ being the biggest question mark. And then, by the way, you don't want him going down. You don't want him in the 2 spot in the doubles with trailing 0-1 in the overall, because then you'll just put a little bit more pressure on that kid's shoulders. And when you look across in that doubles in match number 2, that's a pretty strong lineup in Jason Shaw and FSR, and I know you got Yap sitting next to you if you're AJ, but Jason with Fran, that's about as spicy as it gets when it comes to chemistry and execution.
Yeah, but I don't know what the fine print is on the team play here. So if this is the only time that Fran and Jason can match up, and it's the second match of the tournament,
I feel like it's too soon.
It's nice to get that one out of the way for Team Asia. So if you're Team Asia and you win the team match and you lose that match, you're 1-1 and he's done, and they're done as a couple, right? As a pairing,
yeah.
And then you roll into match 3 with Carlo against Maurice.
I like it.
So yeah. So it's not. I think your team, rest of the world, was kind of predictable in its lineup for the first day, and I think Team Asia knew what that lineup was going to be, and they thought, let's throw a wrinkle in it, which is exactly what they did last year too.
That's a good point, Mike. The strategy of
you look at last year's open lineup, you're like, wow, were they paying attention? And you talk to Johan, who's like, absolutely, attention. We knew exactly what they were. This is what we wanted to do. So see how it always sounds genius when it works out for you. It always sounds like you mess up when it doesn't. So we'll see what happens with this.
Well, it worked out last year. Richard, what do you got on match number 2, AJ Manis and Yap versus Fran and Jay?
Well, it's the bottom 2 versus a pretty strong rest of the world matchup. I mean, they're pretty good friends, those two, Shaw and yeah, I think it's pretty definite. It's going to be Shaw and Francisco going to win that one, almost certainly.
Mike, you talked me out of it. Because I was like, I was dead set on that until you made that point. Because now it's starting to like have the wheels turn where you have a lot more upside, and that's what you are basically banking on with that kid anyway. So you're kind of like in a sense free rolling. And on top of that,
get that doubles out of the way with Fran and Jay, and you're free rolling with AJ because he goes in there and they're not supposed to win that match, so he can, there's no pressure on him in that match. Who knows? To me, if that's the way they played it, I'll buy what their plan is. Whether it works out, we'll see.
Match number 3, Mike. Current world champion against the hottest guy on the tournament scene in Moritz. Who do you got there?
I'm gonna pick Moritz.
Of course you are.
Well, because we saw last year, Chua and Carlo put a lot of pressure on themselves in front of the home crowd last year, and so I think that to me it showed. And so he's got to prove to me that he's coming into this one as a little different player than he did last year for me to pick pick Carlo in this, because I don't think Moritz is going to fade at all.
What do you got, Richie?
Yeah, Moritz. I think Moritz win. It would be close. I mean, it's a flip of a coin. It really depends on just the first match. I mean, the first match gives you momentum. If you win that first match, then I reckon you'll win. The team that win the first match will win the third match. So because of his form, because it's just win. I'm going for Moritz, although I don't have much confidence.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're playing against Carlo in Manila, and I know Carlo didn't exactly. I know he didn't exactly light up the Reyes Cup last year, but I'll still take, that shadow over anything, and the unknown. And then I do feel like the scoreline will be massive going into that matchup as well. Like if let's say rest of the world's trailing 2-0 versus being up 2-0 or even 1-1 for that matter, that'll determine the pressure that Moritz is going to be feeling, especially given the moment. the Perry, he had some big wins against some big boys like we talked about before, so that's going to serve him well in here. But I think it's a different animal. I think Carlo steps up. I like Carlo in this matchup, but I'm not like in love with it. And we talk about upside when it comes to AJ. Listen, I know Moritz is as hot as it can be right now on the tournament scene, but like, my expectation isn't like out of this world for him. So like if he comes out with the win, it's a great, but if he doesn't, it's like, okay, it's against Carlo. It's no big deal. You know what I mean? Like I'm not ready to go and pull the emergency button just yet.
Yeah, right.
Match number 4, boys. Huang and Chua versus Team USA, Federer and Sky. Richard, what do you got on that one?
Oh, definitely. It's going to be Team Asia for that one. I mean, yeah, I don't have much confidence in Skyler and Gorse. He just showed me he's not like.
Last get a Euro on this show, Mike. Just make a note of that.
What's that? What'd you say?
Make a note of that. It's the last time we get a European on this show.
That's so funny. Yeah, I like it. No, but he's
listen. I agree with Richard on this. I think that this is a really good setup for Team Asia. I think Huang is going to come in there with that old smile on his face, not a care in the world, leading the crowd. I think Chua will feed off the crowd. So we know Chua was a little bit shaky a little bit last year. I think he's got less because I think
bingo
much bigger role than Efren did last year. So I see this match as them, especially if Team Asia already has a lead going into the 4th match. If they're up 2-1 or 3-0, then I think they're just freewheeling.
Look, if we're going off of numbers, just as far as like, and you can only put 1 year underneath this because Team Asia only played for 1 year, but Huang played the best out of all 4 guys in these type of environment. Did he last year?
No doubt.
Chua, I agree with you 1,000%, Mike, in terms of it was not stellar by any means last year, but I expect better, But on the other hand, it's like then I'm making the argument, well, recent form in these environments is why I would go and knock the Sky and Federer pairing, but you still know what Federer can be, and I know he was 5-13 over the last 18 matches in these environments, but he's still Federer,
I'm still salty. I'm salty about that pairing having a free run to knot up the Mosconi Cup 5-5 after 2 days and not getting through the rack. And it wasn't against Jason and Fran. It was against David and Kachi. So
I can tell you're over it. Yeah, I can tell, man. You're bringing up old shit now. So, I can tell, man. No, I think.
Listen, I'd be happy as a lark if they show me something here, but until they do, I'm going with Team Asia.
I get it. I do get it for sure. And yeah, I mean, I can't argue it. I can't. I thought like logically, I can't argue it. But I'm going with the heart test here. I'm going with just I'm going pure gut on this one. I think they take that one. Does Team Rest of the World for that matter? I think they win match number 1. I think they win match number 2, and I think they win match number 4. I got Team Rest of the World going into day 2 up 3-1 with a lot of momentum.
Homer, you're always a homer.
No, boy, yeah, you know me too well. But no, look, you guys make some great points, and especially you, Mike. I love the arguments you made as far as like the upside on some of these matches and matchups. You know what I mean, and how it could have a trickle down effect down the road. That's an area of the conversation where you would have given to Double J, but at the same time, from the looks of this, it looks like Team Asia's got a lot more upside on the back end of this tournament compared to the front end. So
that's the way they played it last year. They played it last year to backload it a little bit, and then when they did well on the front end, the backloading was, this is.
You didn't even need it. Yeah. I mean, that's why Chua saved him and Carlo for the end, and you never got to see it because they didn't need him.
Yeah.
But it was a smart play because those were your 2 alphas going into it. So it's like I get it. And then by the way, Copigny is a 3 guy. So it's like fuck, man. Richard, what's your prediction on the score for the end of the Reyes Cup? I think Mike had that. Yeah, for the overall. Who do you think wins and what's the score?
I reckon Team Asia will win it, but I haven't got a massive degree of confidence. But 11-7, I think is I think they'll win it 11-7. I think they'll
You don't
get
have a ton of confidence, and then you go 11-7. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, the first day I reckon will be very. I reckon it'll be 2-2. I hope it's 2-2 at the end of the first day, but then I think it will. The power of Team Asia will come through in one of these days. I mean, one of these days they can win it 5-0. You never know, but yeah. By the way, the in Europe or in the UK, we've got odds on in Ladbrokes, and we've got odds in Bet365 if people are so inclined. Best odds with Team Asia is 4-5 with Team Asia, and the rest of the world, Bet365 is offering evens. So it just shows they're swaying towards Asia. I mean, last year it was Europe. Europe were going to win, like hands down, but it didn't happen. So yeah, I'm going for Team Asia. I reckon they got that about right, but I think a score of 11-7 to Team Asia, plus or minus a couple there. You've got to give a bit of leeway. It could be Team Asia at 11-9. I hope it is close. I really do.
Yeah. Mike, you changing your prediction from yesterday, Mike?
No, I say they
8 still.
Yep.
I hope it is.
What,
if they can get to 8, 11-8 in favor of Asia. Yeah.
11-8 to Asia.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they can get to 8, it's not only just a win for Asia, obviously, but it's a win for the event. And that's really what I'm hoping for. I hope it gets that competitive because I don't want us to see it be a slide.
I hope it gets to 9. I think, because then at some point it was just 10-9. You were with a game of
10-9, Mike.
Captain's pick, so you'd have people on the edge of your seat. An 11-9 win would mean you got someplace really tense, which would be great.
Has Mosconi Cup ever got to 11-10 or anything like that? Had
early in the early days it got down to a decider. The really early days, we're talking, Ronnie O'Sullivan and Alex when they were in the Mosconi Cup.
I mean, that's what we want, really. We really want 11-10 or the final match. That's what we all want.
I hope it's
Ladbrokes have that as the one of the favourite scores, 11-10 to Asia,
really,
or to Team Rest of the World. They have that as the favourite odds at 7-1.
Wow!
So that's what they think.
Maybe they know something we don't.
I don't know.
Well,
probably
not. I'm not biting. I'm not biting on 11-10. That's for sure. And more importantly, if it's 11-10, listen, there'll be a lot of people might be jumping off the bridge on some of the games they're going and laying on the wire. You know what I mean? So, look, I hope it's a great event. I mean,
who are you picking? Give us a score, Mike.
Yeah,
I'm picking Asia. That's what I bet on. I'm picking Asia. And I don't want to stay in that same range as y'all, but I don't want to just go and. but then everyone, he just fucking hates Team Rest of the World. He hates Americans. He hates this, he hates that. That's all I know what I'm going to get.
You pick Team Rest of the World to win the first day.
No, I like y'all. I think it's going to be closer. But a lot of these, Skylar's going to have to be MVP type Skylar. Federer's going to have to actually be Federer, or at least a fraction of Federer. Jason's going to have to be consistent. Fran, get us a couple points, is what you're going to need, So, but it's all got to come together. The loss on Ko and losing out on 3 or 4 points, whatever he brought to the team last year, massive for the Asians, So what's that going to do if the rest of the world gets up on them? We're going to see a side of the Asians that we never seen before, and them having to come from behind, and what they're going to be made of, and what the pressure is going to be like in that spot.
Here's what I think would be really interesting is if it got to 10-10, right? Who rest of the world's putting up there?
Jay, right?
Who you put, and he's a favorite against anybody. I don't know about massive, but he'd be the favorite against anybody on Team Asia. Who are you putting up?
I'll let you go first, Richard, before I go and make an idiot out of myself.
Oh my God. You just asked me that question and I haven't got time to think about it. I mean, God. It really depends on the events before it. I mean, you know,
I mean, obviously, who's playing well on the last day? Who won their singles match on the last
they're going to
day,
weigh in all those things for sure. But like today, who would it be? If it was today,
but they're not going to weigh that for Team Rest of the World. I don't care whether Jay goes in and loses his singles match on the last day.
Agreed.
He's still playing.
Agreed. 100% agree with you.
What I think it is, what it will come down to is who do you think is going to be MVP for each of the teams? Because then that would be my selection.
No, see, I think I agree with Mike. I don't think it matters if it's Jason can go 0-2 in singles. I'm still putting his ass in the case game. Still, you know. Yeah.
And for Team Asia, you know, I got to think it's either got to be Carlo or Yap.
I'm going.
Chua.
Oh, I'm going Yap. I'm going Yap too, Mike. I'm going Yap too. But I
was probably going to go Yap, but it depends on who's playing better.
No, it's in the Philippines.
I get that too,
it's
Richard.
In the Philippines.
But look,
Yap, a Filipino.
Yap closed out last year. He's won so many majors this year. He's got experience. He's got composure. He's got so many factors weighing towards him. But Bustamante being Filipino, he might go with the Filipino. But if it were me, I'm going Yap all day long.
And if I go with a Filipino, I'm going with Carlo over Chua.
Agreed.
And you know, Richard, it's a really good point because if I want to put pressure on Jay, if I want to ratchet it up, I would put a Filipino. I would put Carlo in their final match and have that place on tilt. Because then maybe Jay starts, you know, thinking a little bit.
I mean, what could be a better headline other than Filipino wins it in Philippines?
Yeah, that would be that's what you'd have to try to set it up against. Although if he Carlo lost, Carlo might jump off a cliff.
No, look, he's a monster. He's a closer. He's a world champion. The Reyes Cup kicks off tomorrow. What time is it, Mike? 7 in the 7 Central Time in the AM or 6 AM?
You're asking the wrong guy.
It's either 6.
What time does it kick off in the local time?
In the UK, it's midday in the UK.
So 6 AM then. So it'd be 6 AM US for us.
So they're 13 ahead of us, Mike. So it's 6.
Yeah, but if he's saying it's noon UK, then that's 6 AM Central. You know what I'm saying?
I think so.
Yeah, 6 AM Central would be 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock Manila time.
Yeah. So plus 13. Yeah.
7 o'clock it starts Manila time. So that's 6 AM US time.
Well, I'll be up. I'll be awake. I ain't going to have the popcorn ready at 6 AM, but I'll be enjoying it for sure. Go check out WNTV to go and enjoy the Reyes Cup. We'll be back for some more reaction and previewing day number 2 following tomorrow. Richard, it's a pleasure having you on. Thanks as always for your
Thanks for the invite.
And for your stats as always, my man. Mike, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No. I got all sorts of questions. We'll have to talk about that tomorrow.
All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Go enjoy the rest of your day. I got to take Madeline swimming. We'll see all you guys and gals a little later. See ya.